Don't you just love it when you're showering and you accidentally get a little bit of soap in your eyes? Everybody thinks you're a drug addict for the next 2 hours. People are asking you why you're doing hard drugs. They even want to have like a small intervention with you. Some of your cousins even come out of nowhere and they're like, yeah, I've done drugs with this guy. He's an absolute madman, okay? He needs to slow down. I just had a little tiny drop of soap fall into my eye sockets. Why is everybody losing their minds? Anyways, all jokes aside, let's get straight into today's video. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of different lines that I honestly don't really cover too much on the channel, but they're kind of intriguing to me and I wanted to showcase a little bit of love to them. The first one has to be the new Jazwares Fortnite action figure line. Now, I should clarify, this isn't technically a brand new line. They're essentially just taking their 6-inch line and reissuing it or re-releasing it with less accessories at a much smaller price point. For example, Beef Boss will be available at $16.99 with just a spatula. So it's definitely like a huge markdown, but they're also taking away quite a few accessories. Personally, I know I'm usually against like reissues or re-releases or repaints, but here I'm okay with it because I feel like a lot of these figures from the old Fortnite waves or the old Fortnite line have become incredibly difficult to find, and there is technically kind of a new generation of action figure collectors and gamers that are jumping into Fortnite now. So it's important for Fortnite and just all the manufacturers that have the license to be able to capitalize on it, right? So if they're, 5 years, 6 years by now since that particular line, there are new people that are interested in this action figure line, and unfortunately, those figures are completely sold out. So they're going back around, they're giving you less accessories. I'm assuming the same figure, there might be some repaints here or there, but it's the same technology, same articulation scheme, but they're making it available to you now at $16.99, which, by the way, I'm okay with because there have been quite a few action figures from that original wave that are extremely expensive. Like, I clearly remember seeing some of these at Ross for about $6 to $8 to maybe $9, and now they're being resold online for like $50 to $60. So I think there's definitely the demand for it. There's a fan base out there. There are people that want to collect these figures, and this is just like an opportunity for whoever might have missed them out the first time around to come back around and actually purchase these figures at $16.99. And even if you own the originals, if the joints are a little bit loose, or if you just want like a brand new one in packaging, you can do that now. By the way, the packaging on this is pretty cool. I like it. You can kind of hang it up on your wall if you just want an extra one. But I think it opens up a world of possibilities here, because they could just go back around and give you those figures from way back in the day with just like a couple of accessories, just kind of strip them down and offer them to new collectors. And I mean, let's be brutally honest, there are very few manufacturers at that 1/12 scale that can make action figures for under $20. There are a lot of them that you can find like at Ross, Burlington, or your Walmart clearance aisles, where you can purchase 1/12 collectibles at under $20, but those are usually clearance items. They're not being offered at retail for that price point. So it'll be kind of interesting moving forward if they continue this line. And personally, I actually like it. I think that what they should do is just kind of hit the refresh button, reissue all of those older figures that are difficult to find, that are a little bit expensive, reissue all of them, and then start from scratch, start from new, start giving all of the new collectors. Or you could also just give some of the gamers some of the new skins, because I'm assuming that since that time frame there are a ton of new skins, a ton of new characters that they could feature in action figure form. So I'm actually pleasantly excited about this. I'm surprised that it's taken them this long to do this, but I'm on board for this 110%. I feel like the funds that they're going to collect from these reissues, they're just going to turn back around and port it into a new Fortnite action figure line, which is always exciting, right? Just action figures in general, a brand new action figure line, it's always something good, regardless of what the IP is or what the manufacturer is, because sometimes you can take one of these, and even if you don't collect that particular line, it may have some accessories that you want to use for your display, or it's just a character that fits in another display. Or if you just want to go all in on Fortnite, there's no judgment here, okay? I'm not judging. But anyways, the second action figure line that I wanted to talk about was the new Storm Collectibles Storm Arena action figure line. Look, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm just not into the idea of having two particular manufacturers, especially considering that they're both kind of small. I mean, I would say Jada Toys is much smaller, but Storm Collectibles is still on that same wavelength. Like, they're both incredibly small. They don't necessarily have like a huge fan base, and they're both manufacturing Street Fighter action figures. I personally am completely against it, but you know, it to each their own. The real conversational topic here is that they decided to go back around and release alternate versions of Ken and Ryu. Both of them are going to be in that translucent purple plastic. I didn't actually take a really close look at the accessories, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're the same exact accessories, just in that blue translucent plastic. And I know it's supposed to be some sort of effect. I mean, I'd have to actually go back and play Street Fighter 3 to get fully get a feel for it, or actually get my tiny little memory going. But that is supposed to be some sort of special effect or some special combo that happens there, where you turn a translucent purple, you know, color tone and actually carry out the combo or the special move. But I guess on the surface it kind of makes sense. Like if you were a giant big baller who wiped his rear end with Benji's, you would essentially go out and, you know, buy a few of these and recreate some of those combat sequences. But just from my perspective, this just doesn't make any sense. You're essentially taking the exact same figure, stripping it of all paint applications, and, you know, running it through some sort of machine that manufactures them with translucent purple plastic. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You're using the same body molds, you're putting absolutely no effort, and, you know, you're expecting to still make the same amount of profit. These figures are still supposed to be retailing at that $29.99 price point. I'm just not into it. And look, Jaded Toys did something similar, but I think their approach was a little bit smarter, even though I kind of disagree with it. But what they did was they made the Player 2 variants, which is just a different color scheme on the action figures. If I'm not mistaken, some of their variants, some of their Player 2 variants, they actually went back and gave new accessories to those particular releases, and then made them, sometimes it would be store exclusives, but then other times it would be exclusives to a particular convention. So like SDCC or NYCC would have that alternate Player 2 variation. But that at least makes a little bit more sense, even though I still disagree with that particular approach. But even then, you could kind of make the argument for that, because they were trying to get the most out of those body molds, and if you purchase them, then you can see more characters down the line. It just makes more sense. But here it feels like an easy cash grab. There's absolutely no effort being ported into it. You could at least throw in like an extra accessory, but in all reality, in all honesty, I think only hardcore fans are going to recognize this particular version of the characters. Only very few people are going to get the reference, and most people are just going to turn away from it and not really show a lot of interest. So I think this was a huge mistake from Storm Collectibles, and this is coming from somebody who, I've been on the fence. At this moment, I only own Jaded Toy Street Fighter action figures. I do plan on buying at least a couple of these Storm Collectible figures just to try them out, just to see if they're my cup of tea. But honestly, this kind of makes me turn away from them a little bit. Not to say that I'm completely against Storm Collectibles and that I'm not going to buy a few figures from them, from that Storm Arena line, but I don't know, this kind of feels like a little bit of a warning sign, like a little bit of a red flag to maybe not jump fully into this line. Because if they're going to be reissuing things like this, it just doesn't make any sense to me, and I just don't want to be a part of, you know, a very lazy line like that. I've often criticized McFarlane for doing the exact same thing. He takes an action figure and then, you know, makes it a translucent blue plastic or a translucent whatever plastic, and it just doesn't sit right with me when these manufacturers have the ability to at least port some effort. If you're going to reissue something, at least give some value to the consumer, at least add something to that particular collection. And in this particular situation, I just don't feel that these manufacturers are really looking out for the consumers. So yeah, this is kind of intriguing moving forward. Both of these lines are very interesting. As I mentioned, Jazwares picking up the Fortnite and reissuing a lot of these figures. I actually am 100% on board with that. I feel like a lot of these have become very difficult to find and expensive. Although I will say I would have much rather just gotten a retooled, newer version of those old Fortnite figures. I would have, you know, forked over the $20 to $25 price point if it, you know, warranted that. But in this particular case, they're giving you the same figures for a much lesser price point and less accessories. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on both of these manufacturers moving forward. But I'm honestly very curious to see what you guys have to say. Let me know down below in the comment section. Will you be purchasing any of these Storm Arena collectible figures? Will you be supporting the new reissues of the OG Fortnite action figures, or do you want to see something new? I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say. Let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to stay tuned tuned. Things have been incredibly hectic, but we're still uploading on a daily basis, and we absolutely love it. Thank you guys. Stay safe out there. Enjoy the hobby, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.